Barring injury, next week he will pass in the yardage category as well for a single season in Maryland football history. J.J. McCarthy back out onto the field now. Donovan Edwards. Straight. Tagovailoa keeping this alive, and he throws a dunk that's intercepted. Picked off by DJ Turner, and Turner takes it in for the touchdown.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome in. It's the Michigan, the TMBR, the Maize and Blue Review, Michigan football postgame live, Maryland edition. I'm Dennis Fithian, joined by former Michigan linebacker Jim Scarcelli. Scar, you got to be pretty fired up if you're a Michigan fan here. However you want to look at it, we're dropped right here into this game today. Michigan wins it. They are 9-1, and everything is in front of them here coming up with the Ohio State week.
Yeah, we are a confident bunch. We took care of business, did what we had to do. I know as a coach and watching Bo during these are the kind of games where him and the coaches would just raise the energy level. Opposed to next week, they don't really need to do much next week. But the games like the Maryland before we play Ohio State, that's when you would come in on Monday and these guys are going crazy. The coaches are going nuts. But that's a sign of a good coaching staff. Again, our guys were ready to play. So I want to compliment the coaches. Our guys were ready. I'm sure the coaches had them fired up. And there's four things you really wanted to get out of this game. Number one, we won the game, right? Number one, we won the game. Number two, we come out healthy. Number three, we got better. We got better. And number four, we played a whole bunch of guys. We cleared the bench. Probably everybody that traveled got in the game. And we win against a good quarterback, Denny. I know the guy's been up and down, and they put two good drives together at one time. But that kid scared the heck out of me, and it's a great win. We did a lot of great things, had some great catches. Let's save some of those great catches for next week, man. We got to have them.
You know what? You just mentioned that. You got to coach me up a little bit, maybe the people that are watching here or listening, because you talk about getting a little bit of a scare. Earlier in the day, Michigan State playing Ohio State, and just watching how Ohio State performed there, that was scary. But you know what? We just saw Michigan, and they looked really good. And I'm not asking you for a prediction or anything else, but I'm asking you to coach me up a little bit. And people that had watched that game before saying, all right, Michigan's got a chance. Michigan's going to have a chance against Ohio State. What do you say to the people that watched that first game and are just like, oh boy, this is, as much as they liked what Michigan did this season and in this game right here against Maryland, they also watched that Ohio State team play at noon, and they look like a juggernaut, Scar. Come on.
Listen, Ohio State has they got great players in every phase of the game. They got skilled players. The receivers are real good. They got a real good offensive coordinator. They spread the field. They truly make you play in space. They give you a bunch of problems. Their offense is good. They give you a bunch of problems. But we are better fitted to beat them and stop them than Michigan State defense, I think. Our scheme is better. We're going to give them different looks. I think we're more athletic. We're faster. Our secondary's better. Our secondary's faster. And I see us having a whole lot more success than the Spartans had stopping them. Michigan State, look, every team wants to stop the run. Every coach, defensive coach will tell you we start with stopping the run. And Michigan State obviously emphasizes that too. But you got to be able to do both. And I really think McDonald, with our players, will put a great scheme together to put their quarterback and their coaches in conflict, so that they don't know what we're doing. And like I said, we got better speed defensively, so we're going to slow them down. And I think, listen, if we get the thing going like we had, today was beautiful offensively. I mean, we had our power game going, but they're doing things, and I've been calling for it all year. I think I've talked to you about it. We got to run away from the tight end wing. We're so tight end wing heavy with so much of our plays. So we were running power away. We were running the zone play. We were throwing out of formations today that we normally run out of. I've been calling for it all year. I don't want to sound like, I got all the answers, but I was really happy to see us running and throwing from run formations that we normally run from. We had success. We hit the wheel route to Donovan Edwards. That was out of a formation we normally run out of. But A lot of good things. I am totally confident. We're home. Our fans will be ready, and we will be ready. If we make the catches like we made today and do the things like we did today, we're gonna be in this thing, man.
Thanks to the Big Ten Network for the audio there at the outset. You heard J.J. McCarthy to Donovan Edwards, who you mentioned. You also mentioned the Michigan defense and how it sets up. You heard DJ Turner's interception ended up being a pick six there in the second half. But something you just said there against tendencies, Michigan, their second possession in the first quarter went 11 plays and 70 yards, ended up going to Luke Schoonmaker for a 2-yard TD. But I was tracking the first down plays during that series. Michigan had 5 of them. On 4 of them, they threw. That's not something that you would say, wow, they're just going to turn around and run it up the middle of Haskins, which is what I would say that I would expect them to do. But they threw 4 of their 5 on first downs there when they had a 3rd and 10. They got Donovan Edwards out of the backfield. And I don't know, do you think – so Corum dressed and, if he was going to be out there in an emergency case Edwards now, though, he played so well today, Scar. You think they're going to put a package together or two to have Edwards some kind of flare out, line it up as a wide receiver, getting him out of the backfield? Almost seems like it demands it when you have a game like that kid had.
Yeah, he's definitely good in space, and he's got good hands, and they like to throw it to him on the bubble stuff. They like to throw we've thrown the wheel route to him many times this year. I'm sure they know what he might be better at than Corum, and I think that's obvious with some of the plays they have for him. But yeah, it's definitely was good to get him going, get a little more of a comfort level as a coach that we got 2 of them, but obviously Corum probably could have played if we needed him. I bet you that was the deal there. He was dressed because they wouldn't have had him dress, I don't think, if he was still recovering. But, Denny, I want to mention something, another group of guys that I'm involved with, Sports Peninsula Podcast is a group of guys that I've been with for a while, and we just talk Michigan football. We talk a lot of different Metro Detroit sports. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, and it's some pretty good stuff in addition to the great people here, more good football. But, it was great to see Donovan Edwards going. And our tight ends really weren't involved that much today. But I know you're going to ask me about JJ. I told you I love it. I want to see him in the game because you saw, he gives you that run threat. There was one time they brought a pressure. There were 2 guys. They had him boxed in, and he avoided it and went for a first down. And McNamara wasn't going to make that happen, and that's fine. But JJ is getting more confidence. He gives us more for the defense to have to deal with. Ohio State is going to have to spend time figuring out what do they do with this guy when he's in the game. And it's just more BS for the defensive players to have to look at in practice, more stuff to, drag on them in terms of what they have to prepare for their game plan for Michigan.
We're going to look at this whole thing today from Maryland, but if you just had to tell the people that are watching and listening 2 key points for success against Ohio State, Michigan's defense being able to slow down Stroud and those 3 NFL wide receivers that they have there. I would think, somehow containing them, not letting them do what Michigan State did, just bust them open, wide open, goes down the list, Olave, Wilson, the other kid, these guys are great. I mean, they're not just good wide receivers. These guys are great. I would think that would be one. What's the other one? Being able to fight fire with fire, being able to get out there and put up points if you're Michigan as well? Is it more on the running game with Haskins and Corum and Edwards? Or do you think it is McNamara or it is McCarthy being able to unleash a little bit and finding some of these receivers who now look like they're all coming together and getting healthy, whether it's Andrew Anthony, whether it's Roman Wilson, whether it's Mike Sandristow, whether it's Eric All. What do you think, Scar, if you had to point to two keys against the Buckeyes here and just like kind of an X's and O's deal when it comes down to, staying with and beating Ohio State next week?
Denny, it's impossible to point 1 or 2 things. You look at the Michigan State game. We drop passes with nobody on us. The punter drops the ball. We fumble the ball when no one touches us, a quarterback exchange. there's going to be 100 some plays in that game, and every one of them can decide the game. So listen, I think defensively, McDonald has to have a great scheme to put their quarterback in conflict, put their coaches in conflict, so they don't know what we're in all the time. Our players have to execute it. We got to contain the court. We got to tackle great in space. We got to be great tacklers in space. Keep the ball in front of us, and then hopefully, if you look at like Nebraska and some of those games where they struggled, we got to tackle in space, get them down into the red zone, and keep them to field goals, because that's where their offense isn't as effective, because they, with the space that they play in. And then the big thing we got to do is our offense. I think Coach Harbaugh wants to shorten the game with what we do. Obviously, we can run it. We can spread you out too. We have the capability of doing that. But ideally, we'd like to have our 2-3 tight end, grind a little bit, grind some first downs, eat some clock, shorten the game, shorten the possessions, make every possession more valuable, right? But just like we did today, and execute on offense, make first downs, 5-6 minute drives that lead to touchdowns. Let's tackle them in space. Let's get them in the red zone and keep them to field goals. If that gives you a quick, game plan, again, that's going to take a lot of stuff there. But defensively, when I look at Ohio State defensively, look, they got big, strong, great athletes all over the place. But I don't know if there is, first round, Chase Young type guys on that defense. There's good players. I don't know if there's as many great ones as we've seen in the past. We're going to find out.
Well, and Michigan does have some great ones with 55 and 97 rushing the passer. And, to your point here, like if Michigan played pass defense and didn't have those kind of guys that could get after the quarterback, it could look like what Michigan State had going, where the ball was going over their head, where they're up the seam. I mean, just touchdown after touchdown. And it looked easy, but you mentioned it, and it rang true to me, the success that Penn State and Nebraska had. They tackled. They didn't let big plays go. They made them drive the length of the field, even though they ended up losing those games. The Huskers and the Lions, Penn State was within 3 points of Ohio State. So it can happen. It doesn't mean just because we saw the juggernaut unleashed and Stroud going crazy. Michigan can defend that. They can play better. They can play like Penn State and Nebraska there. And the offense is, as much as, I don't know, it's not a machine gun but it's a little better than a pop gun. They've got some balance, and they've got some guys that, that can get in there, and they got a wild card in McCarthy. I mean, all of those things there, it's, gives them a chance, and they're at home.
Yeah. I really liked our play calling. I liked everything was, when I always look at how I would defend Michigan. When I'm looking at a game, I'm looking at it from a coaching standpoint, and I really like we got our zone play going. We were throwing out of every different formation, and just like you said, Danny, we're throwing more on first down, and I think they made a decision. I think as a coaching staff, Gaddis, Harbaugh, whoever, they said, listen, we get down in the red zone, we are not going to be afraid to throw on first down. I think we started the year with all them field goals. And I think if you look at Michigan and but the opponent is seeing that too, which is great, because now they got to play pass on first down, and we want to put them in conflict like that. And let me say this about tendencies too. And I'm coaching as many years as I have. Everybody has their tendencies, and you study them and this and that, and you know exactly what they've done. But let me tell you, when Michigan plays Ohio State, you can throw them tendencies out the window. When you have your big game, those tendencies are irrelevant because people change all that. But I like JJ in the game. I wouldn't hesitate putting him in against Ohio State either, because you have to really watch when he's in a game what it does to the backside defense, Denny. It slows everything down away from where the ball is being run, because they have to honor him with the quarterback run. What else did I see out there?
Well, let me direct you. Let's go to today's game. Look at Michigan on offense. You're talking about the quarterbacks here. Cade McNamara threw the ball 28 times. 259, had two touchdowns, no interceptions, although the one down there in the end zone ended up being called as a hold. He did throw a pick there, but that one got wiped off the board. McCarthy, 5 for 5, 58 yards and a score. And McCarthy also ran 2 times for 19 yards. And and bowled over a defender like he was a linebacker to get into the end zone as well. A pretty physical run for a touchdown. Just Michigan offensively, you mentioned the one-handed catches. I mean, these are things Andrew Anthony and Mike Stanristow, those aren't easy catches, and those were big-time plays. And you know what? Both of those were down in the red zone. You know, to your point, like Roman Wilson, that first touchdown he had against Penn State last week on their second drive, that one was stuck right in there. That was from the 21-yard line, so it wasn't necessarily goes down as a red zone touchdown. But, you know, Michigan had some in there today. What else offensively, you know, stood out to you when you think about Michigan here today on when they had the ball?
Danny, I think our quarterback was very accurate again. He had the one bad pass. He threw off one of our offensive linemen's head, but he was very accurate today. He stepped up in the pocket, showed a little bit of ability to run there. I thought our offense did a great job executing at the end of the first half, only to kind of screw it up with that high-low block that we had our tight end, 86 Shoemaker. And Laurinaitis was right.
His hand on him, right.
Laurinaitis was absolutely right. Haskin blocks the inside gap. The tight end should have blocked outside. But
and let me interrupt you there, Scar, because you said something that you were watching the TV copy like me. Well, and what you were talking about in the first quarter, McCarthy came in. You know, Cade, he did throw the ball and ended up hitting the offensive lineman's helmet, right, or the defensive lineman's helmet. I don't remember which one it was, but the sideline reporter said they're talking to Cade, and the focus is not throwing the ball low into the opponent's helmet. Now, I don't know if he heard Gaddis or Harbaugh coming over there and just saying, "Hey, don't throw the ball into," like that seems like you know, he does have a delivery that's more, I don't know, 3/4. It's not over the top. I mean, are they telling him change his delivery? Are throwing lanes? I was surprised that came up when you heard that. I don't know, did you hear that comment? And what do you think? This isn't the first time that we've had McNamara throwing into and hitting a lineman here. Throwing lanes, delivery. I mean, what do you emphasize if you're the coaching staff when it comes down to Cade, and what were they talking about over there on the sideline?
You know, Denny, I was telling you in the past that I coached a lot of positions, and quarterback is one that a quarterback has to have a feel for where that window is, you know, between the offensive linemen. And if he's throwing one of them shallow routes, you know, right in front of him, sometimes that can happen. He's just got to be smarter. He's just got to be smarter at that. Obviously, they you know, what can you do about it? He hasn't done much of it. But anyway, it's something to talk about. You hope he's smart enough to correct it. But I thought Cade was outstanding. He was very accurate. I thought our receivers dropped some passes early. You know, we can't do any of that next week. We got to have all the great catches. You know, our first drive, we dropped a pass. Kojo dropped it. He dropped a couple today. We can't have that. We can't have none of that. Everybody, you know, I'm going to tell you this, Danny. Here's what Bo used to say before this game. He would go on Monday. He'd go into our meeting room, and he would look at everybody who was our 22 starters. And he'd point to Harbaugh, and he'd say, "You got to be better than Karasadis," I think was the name of the quarterback when I played. Or he'd tell me that I got to be better than their outside linebacker. He'd tell Eric Caddis, "You got to be better than their tight end." So he went right down the line saying that everybody from Michigan, at whatever position you played, you had to be better than the kid from Ohio State. So our receivers, yeah, everybody's talking about the Ohio State receivers. Our receivers got to play like they played today. If they make those great catches, I don't think our blocking was as good as it's been today, but we got to block great. Everybody's got to play their best game. That's a memory I have of the way Bo used to approach that game. Every guy's got to play better than the guy who's playing that position for Ohio State.
Yeah, I love it. You know what? Do you feel like there was a change this year? There seemed like there was somewhat of a change. You know, they went into the locker room and they put it up on the wall. You know, what are you doing to beat Ohio State today? They didn't shy away from any of those any of the comments. They were talking about what did you do today? And you know, in the past, even when, you know, it was just Justin Fields, the last Buckeye quarterback that was in there, you know, he said some things, he kind of flimp it. And, you know, I'm paraphrasing it, just like, hey, we want it more. We want it more. I don't know, like, the talent, what it comes down to, it feels like Michigan's focusing on, hey, they want it. I don't know if that's going to be a factor in there, but a little bit, not a subtle change, but Michigan outwardly talking about, hey, we're not, at least from that standpoint, we're going to want it. We're going to be motivated. We know that they, how many they've lost in a row here. What is it, 8, and everything else. They didn't play 15 of 16. I mean, the numbers are terrible, but, the narrative changed a little bit from the Michigan camp this year. Scar, did you notice that?
Maybe he's just saying it publicly. I don't know. I'm not on his coaching staff. I'm not a player now. Okay. But this is what I believe. I believe that Michigan football, 365 days a year, is doing something to beat Ohio State and Michigan State. I believe that it is ingrained in what we do. I believe that our offense is doing things that will help our defense stop Ohio State. I believe that. I believe it's part of our offensive. We may even have some of their plays in specifically to help our defense so that they see it during spring football, so that they see it in bowl practices, so that they see it in all summer long when we're just going 7-on-7. That's what I believe. I don't know what, we don't know for sure. I'm not a player in the program now. I'm not a coach, but I know what it used to be like. And I firmly believe that maybe he hasn't said as much to the media about, or put some big red signs all over the place, or put a clock on the wall. People want a clock on the wall, and that means I don't know if I agree with that. But I do think that we emphasize the hell out of those 2 games, and that we've done things defensively. We probably do things on defense to help our offense for Ohio State too. I wouldn't doubt if that is something that is part of what we do. Because you're never going to be, Denny, we're not going to stop Ohio State's offense if our defense doesn't get a good idea of what they do, and you can't just prepare for something like that in 1 week.
Well, what did you think of the defense today? They held Maryland down to 3 points at the half. DJ Turner stepped up and had a pick 6. I don't know if it went down. I don't think, Hutch, they were holding him a little bit, and Ajabo, these guys trying to set the sack record and everything else. I don't know if they ended up getting any or not, but what did you think overall? Did you take any notes down about the Michigan defense and things that jumped out today? Because there was a lot of fireworks offensively, especially when the second half rolled around, offense, defense, and special teams. What about the defense specifically?
I told you, I said I watched this kid play the first game of the year, and I thought he was the best quarterback in the Big Ten. But he's been up and down, because he can run and he can throw. I was really, really, not scared, but concerned with the Maryland offense. I thought Coach McDonald and the defensive staff gave a great scheme. We gave them a lot of different looks. They got nothing easy. So I think the scheme was great, and I think the players executed it really good. Again, he does different things week to week. You don't know what you're going to get when you play Michigan's defense. I thought we tackled well in space, because this offense really wants to play in space. And I thought the great thing about this offense is it's very similar to what we're going to see next week. Very similar to what they're doing. That can be a good thing because your players see it, but it can be a bad thing because the opponent has an idea of what you like to do to defend it. You understand what I'm saying, Denny?
I do.
Yeah, I do. But what else did I see? I don't know. Maryland dropped a lot of passes. Their quarterback threw a lot of he had some guys that were wide open, but I was a little just frustrated that we're losing contain sometimes on that quarterback. I'm a former outside linebacker. I just hate seeing ends lose contain, and but anytime you rush 4 guys, there's really 6 gaps. So there's always 2 gaps that the quarterback could step up in, and that happened a couple times today. But anyway, we played a lot of guys. Tackling in space was good. It's good to see a pick 6. Good to see our defense score some points. But in general, it was a good overall defensive game plan, and I think our players executed it. They played hard, and it was a pretty good defensive effort.
Well, I want to take you to special teams. Let's go back to offense for a second. Actually, let's go to College Park because Jim Harbaugh up at the podium. Angelique Shengelis from the Detroit News is taping some of this news conference. And here's Jim Harbaugh talking about his true freshman, Donovan Edwards, in the game that he had today.
It was a great performance, all-time record. But as I told you earlier, this will be a blip on the radar of the career of Donovan Edwards. He's destined for great things.
Just a blip, great day there for Donovan Edwards. He came in pretty highly ranked and everything, and he did look awesome. You mentioned his good hands. It wasn't just him getting out and doing it. You saw the speed, the ability after the catch, all of those things. Here's a couple other notes that Angelique is saying from Jim Harbaugh. Here's the quote: "We want to finish it. We want to win all the marbles." That's from Harbaugh. Cade McNamara was asked when his focus turned to Ohio State. He said, quote, "Once I got taken out." So, all right, these guys are ready for this week. And, we didn't think this was going to be the case before the season, but we've went over the offense. We've gone over the defense. Special teams was a big factor, could be a big factor next week, but they did a lot of things in the return game and the punt block game, field goals, a little bit of everything that you would want here. Go through some of that kickoffs, or go through some of that special teams stuff, and what you saw there from Michigan specials today.
As a former coach, I always worry about catching punts because again, Bo used to always say that's the hardest thing to do in football, and it is. And I'm still worried when we're catching punts. So. We dropped one.
I'm worried about A.J. Henning because he dropped one and also had a fumble on a catch or a reverse that he was in there, but he also had the kickoff return. You're a little bit concerned there, or you're riding with them. What do you think?
Because I think they put Turner in for a couple weeks, right? They put someone else in there for a couple games to catch punts.
Well, he was hurt though. I think he was dealing with a hamstring there. He was dealing with but I don't know. Listen.
If that's the guy that he probably catches them. It's just like basketball, shooting 3-pointers, right? Where everybody's down on our basketball team, we can't make. But I guarantee you, Caleb Houston's probably 80% in practice. But you got to catch him in front of 100,000. So we got to catch the darn punt. We don't want to do that next week. But our punt return team I think Jay Harbaugh does a great job. In general, all of our special teams, he's the guy that runs that. I think our punt return team has been real good. And we blocked a punt today. And what that does to you, Denny, when a team shows that they are willing and they know how to execute and block a punt, what that does is it forces the protection team to spend more time on protection instead of getting in their lanes and covering. So they're going to have to spend, look, Michigan is willing to do it. They got guys that can do it. So they got to spend time on protection instead of spending time on getting their guys down the field on their coverage. But let me say this too. This is coaching. When we had that throwback pass for a touchdown, our coaches must have seen something. They must have known what Maryland does in that, the way they had their coverage team lined up. For whatever reason, our coaches must have known that was coming.
Expecting a little bit of a shorter pooch kick.
We had a guy that was there, that was prepared. You don't make that decision just when it's happening. You have an idea that, listen, this is what they like to do when they, something. There must have been something on film our coaches saw. And
Michael Barrett, a high school quarterback, catches it, throws it back. Perfectly executed.
That's not just something, like we're playing in the backyard, That's not something that just they winged it. So I give credit to the coaches there, but you give credit to the players for executing. It was perfect. It was a perfect throw, and he kind of just snuck out there, and it was well executed. But those plays are great because Ohio State has to work on it. And we get in our bowl game, people have to work on it. People are always going to have to work on that when they play Michigan.
Well, you know what, Scar, before you go on, this was a 59. Michigan wins it by 41 points, 59 to 18. And 41, 40, yeah. And the thing is, I think if you look for a key in this game, it ends up coming down to that punt block, because the play before, it's the first possession of the second quarter. That's when Michigan, they go for it on a 4th and 4, and they throw into traffic there. It wasn't the greatest execution or design or anything else there. I mean, that's going to happen, but so they go 4 and out there, and that's when the defense steps up and gets a 3 and out. Then they get the punt block. I mean, it's a 14-3 game there. They come back, and that's when Mike Sanders made the great catch. The 13-yarder for the touchdown, made it 21-3. They really didn't look back. So I thought that was the turning point of the game, if there was a turning point of the game.
I looked at things as a former defensive player. It's like, yeah, okay, we get the pick 6, but guess what? We got to go right back on the field. So there were those kind of plays in that game where, yeah, okay, we get the you do a good job on defense, but you got to continue to go right back on the field on defense. We only really there were 2 series where Maryland got it rolling there in the second half. They had us reeling a little bit there where they were playing like they were capable of, but luckily we settled in, and I was happy to see a lot of them young defensive players get reps, because like we talked about how important game reps are. And it's good to get that. And those kids are going to be so much more fired up for practice this week. All those guys that played, they'll be that much more excited, for as their future with the program, because they got a few reps.
Well, we've talked offense, we've talked defense, we've talked special teams. We started out talking a little bit about Ohio State. Let me ask you a specific question. I'll get your general thoughts on this game, and we'll look ahead to Ohio State. You're in the camp, because going into the game in Happy Valley, I thought that Michigan just should go with Cade McNamara and not go with J.J. McCarthy in case it was an emergency and they needed him. I wanted to have McNamara say, hey, you're our guy. McCarthy, great job coming up to this point. Feel good about bringing you in if McNamara, busts his chin strap or something, but give him the ball. It's his game kind of thing. And that is what happened against Penn State. But just listening to you, Scar, over these last couple, you don't have any problem with J.J. McCarthy. Is that something that you think heading into this game, if you had to guess, it's gonna be more like today, or is it gonna be more like the previous week when we didn't see any McCarthy? What are your thoughts on that?
If someone let me bet on it, I would bet McCarthy plays next week, because you got to remember, the head coach has to sleep at night, right? And if you have two that can play, if the first guy gets hurt, you sleep a little better. But also, like I've said, a football team has so many hours they have in a week to prepare for the opponent. You got so many hours, and there's a lot of teams that I've played against, coached against. They will burden you with a whole bunch of stuff. They show a bunch of things. I've done the same thing as a coach. You want them to prepare for all these different things. The throwback on the kickoff, the fake punts, the different formations, now J.J. McCarthy, can he, the runner, you got to know when he's here. If he's lined up here, what if he cheats here? What if they're both in the game? All that stuff is a mental burden for the defense. And it takes away sometimes from, the guts and glue of stopping your best stuff. Sometimes all that window dressing type, just to, fog your mind and cloud your mind up. That's the mentality of, of a lot of coaches. So I get it. I get the concern. I'm still going to support the decision of playing him just like they are is fine. He probably played maybe 7, 8 reps until at the end. He got in at the end and played a little more, but I'm a believer in it.
Let me throw 2 other quick ones at you here. How about divvying up the carries here? Hassan Haskins today ended up. You saw a lot more. You did have a little bit of Donovan Edwards. You had J.J. McCarthy. 20 carries though still for Hassan Haskins. What was it last week? 31, 27 the week before. You could get Blake Corum coming back from what you saw from Edwards. You could be kind of a 3-headed monster. What are you saying? You're Mike Hart, you're Jim Harbaugh, you're Josh Gaddis. You're sitting around here tonight, maybe texting back and forth. Are these guys talking about, hey, let's go 90% Hassan. Let's just ride Hassan Haskins. He's good for it. How do you think they work the running backs in here against Ohio State?
You know what's interesting, Denny, is early in the year, you want a good rotation. You'd like to have 25 guys that can play defense. You'd like to have 3 running backs. You'd like to have 6, 8 receivers because, you're playing in warm weather. It's a whole nother deal. Playing today and playing next Saturday, man, you don't need to Hutchinson isn't going to need to come out of the game. I guarantee you. Opposed to, early in the year when it's 80 degrees out there, you need to come out of the game. You can't go as long. But to answer your question about, rotating all 3, what does that give us? What's the advantage there? They know which one of them pass protects better. They know which one of them runs certain plays better, who runs the power play better, who runs the zone play better. The coaches all know that. But obviously you don't want to show that you only run Donovan Edwards on certain plays and you only run Haskins on certain plays. But look, they're gonna have a comfort level of what they want to do with all 3 of them. Obviously, they probably would like to play Corum a little bit. He's earned the right to play in that game, but they're going to do whatever they got to do to win the game and not be afraid to hurt somebody's feelings if they don't play.
It's going to be Thanksgiving weekend, just looking ahead, whatever this is worth for the forecast, a high of 37, low of 27 degrees, kind of what you would expect for an Ohio State Michigan game. It is in Ann Arbor. What do you think overall? Like Michigan State today, I was surprised that they tried to get Kenneth Walker in the screen game. Peyton Thorne wasn't too sharp with his passes, but it looked like Michigan State was deciding to come out and saying, hey, we got to put the ball up rather than saying, let's shorten the game, let's ride Kenneth Walker. How do you think Michigan approaches it? Will they go and say, we're going to, you talked about, let's go to this ground game. Let's establish this ground game. When would they abandon it? Just how do you think? Do you think they're going to come out and say, hey, we need to ground and pound against Ohio State to keep them over there on the sideline?
Denny, you have to take the approach offensively like we took today. You want the opponent not to know what you're going to do on first down, right? You want the opponent not to know what you're going to do in a certain formation, down and distance, because you know why coaches, everybody hears about coaches, up all night working 16-hour days. What they're doing is they're looking at film of the opponent. They're looking at tendencies. Everybody's got 15, 20 analysts. They put all their stuff in a computer, and this is what they do when the ball's here. This is what they do when they have this personnel in the game. This is what they do with that formation. This is what they do when they're winning. They'll know everything. I'm a former head coach, but I coached the defense. That was my thing. And my job was to get into the head of the offensive coordinator. I got to know what he does and when he does it. But again, to answer your question, people will change their tendencies in a game like this. Just because what we did against Maryland or what they did against Rutgers or someone else, what they're going to do against Michigan down in distance will be off, different. But Ohio State, I think they are more of they want to throw. I think they have more confidence in their throwing game than they do in their run game.
Okay. All right. Well, so we've gone over this game today. Anything that I've missed here overall as we get into a Michigan-Ohio State week in one that in a place you want to be if you're a Michigan fan, where you're playing for a chance to go to Indianapolis. Now, they were in this situation. They needed some help in Harbaugh's first year in 2015. 2016 ended up being that 3 overtime game with the JT Parrott. If Michigan wins that one, they go to Indy, the spot, however it was. Yeah. They don't win that. 2018 was the same thing. Michigan wins that one. They are going. So they've had opportunities here. And now this time they'll have another shot here in 21. And they're at home, where if they win this one, they're going to Indianapolis and something that obviously everybody wants, Michigan to win the Big Ten. And they want to see him go and play in that Big Ten championship game. So, they've got this chance. Here they are, 9-1. I didn't see anybody picking Michigan to win over 9 games. And, here they have an opportunity to do it and do everything. So That's where we're at right now, Scar.
Yeah, I don't think Michigan cares who. I'm gonna quote the great Woody Hayes. Who is they? Did you hear me, Denny?
I heard you.
Coach Moeller played for Woody Hayes. Okay, he used to quote Woody often. Who is they? If they don't think you're going to be playing for a championship, if they don't think you're going to be playing against Ohio State for it all, I guarantee you those Wolverines aren't listening to they. They're listening to their coach, their head coach, and their assistant coaches. And this team is going to be confident, and it's going to be a great game. We just do the things we did to make you got to play in the big games. You got to be a gamer in the big games. We need you now. We don't need you against Northwestern making the one-handed catches. We need it against the Buckeyes.
Hey, I want to leave it right there. You know what? It's going to be a great week. I think people, it's instead of tiptoeing into this one, get ready now, man. Michigan's got them at home. Why not? One of these times they're going to come up and win this game. There's no reason to be nervous. You can be nervous, but no reason to, be down on the team. Here they are. One of these times, they're going to come up big. Why not? Not this Saturday. That's going to be my approach all week. You got a final thought there, Scar?
2 words, Denny. Go blue.
All right. Hey, great job today, man. You brought it. You had your fastball. And I know you'll have it next week.
All right, baby.
All right. Take care. There he is, Jim Scarcelli.